Hello, my witchy friends. It's Bigberry Witch ASMR, and I'm, as many of you know, a witchcraft historian, currently writing a book on witchcraft. And a while ago, I compiled 100 facts about witchcraft history and magic. And now I've compiled another 100. And so I invite you to get comfortable, make yourself a little cup of tea perhaps, while I read you 101 more facts about witchcraft and play with some witchy triggers. But first, if you're new here, please consider supporting my work on Patreon. I love my patrons so very much. They are, in fact, the reason why this video is being made at all. I am so grateful for them. They fund my research, my hobbies. Here on YouTube, you can unlock dozens of ad-free videos, audios, and blog posts. I love to talk about all sorts of historical things on there. And it's a wonderful, very welcoming community. So I'd love to have you in our midst. And of course, if you're new here, please subscribe and join the coven. We are a very welcoming and friendly bunch. So let's begin by grabbing our first item. And the first thing that I have here is this celestial mug. So I'm going to read each fact and say the number. And I'll go through all 101 without stopping. Number 1. In medieval Europe, the sight of a flying bat was often said to foreshadow the appearance of a malevolent witch. Number 2. Witches were thought to transform into bats, to shrink themselves down and ride bats like horses, to use bats' blood to enchant their broomsticks, and to keep bats, of course, as familiars. Number 3. In 1322, Lady Jacome of Bayonne, France, was burned at the stake because large groups of bats, a common theme here, were seen flying around her garden and house. Number 4, ancient Slavic pagans worshipped a diverse pantheon of gods and goddesses, including Perun, the god of thunder and sky, Veles, the god of cattle, magic and wisdom, and Mokosh, the goddess of fate and fertility. George Gifford, number 5. George Gifford wrote a discourse of the subtle practices of devils by witches and sorcerers in 1587, and a dialogue concerning witches and witchcraft in 1593, which argued that witches did not possess harmful powers, but it was instead the devil himself that practiced supernatural evil. Number 6. In 1542, British Parliament passed the Witchcraft Act. Which declared that witchcraft was a crime punishable by death. Number 7, witchcraft was decriminalized in England in 1736, though one could still be imposed with a fine or imprisonment if they claimed to use magical powers. Number 8. The Witchcraft Act was fully repealed in 1951. It was only 1951. By the Fraudulent Mediums Act. Number 9. The numbers vary and are not absolute. Scotland had one of the highest rates of execution for witchcraft per capita. Number 10. About 3,837 people were accused of witchcraft in Scotland. Only about 67% were executed. Older accounts tend to produce unreliably high numbers, so be careful with your sources. Number 11. The last known execution for witchcraft was in Switzerland in 1782. Number 12. The last known victim of the witchcraft trials in the British Isles, that rhymes, was likely Janet Horne in 1727. Her neighbors accused her of practicing magic and consorting with the devil. Number 13. Pretending with quotes around it, to practice witchcraft was once illegal under Section 265 of the Criminal Code in Canada. Though this was repealed, and it wasn't until 2018. It was originally a 1735 law, updated in the 1800s and repealed in 2018. Absolutely crazy. Number 14. The broom or besom was one of the sacred and distinguishable symbolic attributes of Hecate, who is also known as the matron of midwives and witches. And speaking of, my next trigger is a broomstick. Number 15. One of the most famous cauldrons is the silver Gundestrup cauldron, which was found in a peat bog in Denmark in 1891. It had been there since sometime in the 1st century BCE, and you can see it in the National Museum of Copenhagen. Number 16. Witch hunts and crazes varied vastly by region. For example, in France, there was often more accusations of demonic possession of nuns in convents, and it was often priests who were the perpetrators, not witches. Number 17. Judica Isles writes in her Encyclopedia of Witchcraft that it wasn't fantasy when Gretel burned the witch in the oven in the Grimm's fairy tale. Hansel and Gretel, the candy house in the middle of the forest, may have been make-believe, but killing witches was pure reality. Number 18. In 1441, Eleanor Cobham was accused of trying to murder the king with wax image magic. Number 19. Wax image magic, or puppet magic, is a type of folk magic using an effigy, where a doll is made to represent a person, either to cast spells upon them or to help them in some way. Number 20. One of the earliest known laws against witchcraft was in the Code of Hammurabi around 1750 BCE, which prescribed death for sorcery. This was done through trial by ordeal. If the accused was deemed guilty, they would jump into a holy river. Number 21. In ancient Rome, the Lex Cornelia de Sicaris a Beneficius, always kind of a tongue twister, from 82 BCE, banned poisoning and magical practices that could inflict harm upon others. Number 22. In the 8th century, Capitulary of Charlemagne declared that witches and witchcraft practice were forbidden. Number 23. Pope Gregory IX established the Inquisition in 1231, originally targeting heresy, but later including witchcraft as part of its scope. Number 24. The Canon Episcopi from the 10th century was one of the first texts to describe what witches look like while practicing. Flying through the sky, of course, with the strength of her power. Number 25, a concept familiar to you if you practice witchcraft at all. A Book of Shadows is a book of spells or rituals collected and copied out by hand in hopes of preserving its contents for future generations of witches. Number 26. The concept of the Book of Shadows comes from the idea that books of pagan practice had to be kept in the shadows or in complete secrecy to avoid trouble. Number 27. Witchcraft was a secular crime in England, particularly after the mid-1500s, and the Witchcraft Act, which shifted prosecution from the church courts, was to blame for this. Number 28. The Parliament of Paris overturned a great deal of witchcraft convictions. They were often skeptical of punishing the accused with the death penalty. So there were less deaths from accusations of witchcraft in Paris. Number 29. Spectral evidence, a form of testimony based on dreams or visions invoked by the accused witch, was often used to prosecute witches in the courts at Salem. Number 30. Beltane is also known as Floralia, May Eve, and Walpurgisnacht, and it's got different spellings in Irish, like Bealtaine. Number 31. Alrundelberin is a Germanic synonym for witch, dating back to the 16th century. It means a rune bearer, or someone who magically uses mandrake roots. Number 32. Druids are featured at the center of Irish and Welsh mythology, and they relied on oral storytelling to transmit information. Most of what we know about them comes from what others have written about them. Number 33. Like Pliny the Elder, who wrote about the Druids in Natural History, he said that is what they call their magicians. So he wrote down quite a bit of information about the Druids and how they were perceived. Number 34. Hedge rider is a Northern European name for witch, coming from the phrase, she who rides the hedge. And many witches are self-proclaimed hedge witches, which is an entirely different kind of sect of solitary practitioners. Number 35. The word grimalkin is from Shakespeare's play Macbeth, where a witch says, "I come, Grey Malkin," as a response to her familiar. Grey Malkin means grey cat, and the term was later adopted as a catch-all name to refer to cats. Number 36. There are two associated meanings with the word Sabbath. A Sabbath nowadays refers to the 8 main celebratory days observed in the wheel of the year. Historians, however, know it as the phrase that witch hunters originally used to refer to gatherings of witches in large groups. Number 37. The word heathen comes from Anglo-Saxon, which means heath dweller. The heath was an area outside of traditional settlement. So in other words, if you wanted to retreat from Christianity and practice the old ways, you would become a heathen. Number 38. Chelmsford in Essex had a proliferation of witch trials in 1566, 1579, 1589, and 1645. Number 39. The trial of the Warboys witches occurred in 1593 and involved Alice Samuel, her husband John, and her daughter Agnes. Children exposed to Alice began getting sick, and this alone was enough for the trial to go ahead. Number 40. There were numerous witchcraft trials that involved fairies. If you demonstrated an interest or kinship with fairies, you could be accused of witchcraft. Number 41. Salt is used frequently in spells and rituals to represent the earth element, and it is often sprinkled around magic circles for extra protection. Number 42. Conversely, in the medieval period, it was thought that witches and their familiars could not eat salt in their food. Demonologists would recommend protecting witch hunters with amulets filled with salt. Number 43. The Museum of Witchcraft is the world's largest collection of witchcraft history related objects, and it is located in Cornwall, England, and it's really, really cool. I'd love to take you guys there. Number 44, the museum was founded by Cecil Williamson, an English neo-pagan warlock. And for a while, it was actually owned by Gerald B. Gardner himself, the father of Wicca. Number 45. Many people would use hagstones historically, a stone with a hole drilled in it, usually hung on the bedpost in one's room, to keep away a witch from sitting on your chest and causing nightmares. Number 46. A garter can be an important magical accessory, and it's still symbolically worn on the legs of some Wiccans today. During the witch trials, however, garters were associated with the devil. Number 47. The Salt Lane Witches are figures in English folklore who lived in Castle Street. People thought of them as white witches because they would free horse-drawn carts that became stuck in the mud where they lived. Number 48. Ordeal by touch. Was another method to identify a witch during the trials. The ordeal would be performed by touching someone who was supposedly bewitched, and if the issue that the victim was experiencing disappeared, then the accused was guilty. Number 49. Crystallomancy, or I think it might be catoptromancy, is performed with a magic mirror, and it is a form of divination. Number 50. In a magic circle, each cardinal point has a certain symbolic association, usually with a guardian or spirit, an element, a tool used in the ritual, or a color. Number 51. The Hermetica are 42 books on mystical, sacred wisdom, though much of this knowledge was lost in the burning of the Alexandria Library. Number 32. In ancient Roman law, healing anyone by sorcery was thought to be a fraudulent activity and could be persecuted as a civil crime. Number 53. Patricia C. Crowther, born in 1927, is one of the last remaining Wiccan high priestesses initiated by Gerald B. Gardner himself. Number 54. Drawing down the moon is a crucial ritual for some Wiccans, where a coven's high priestess goes into a trance and takes on the identity of the goddess, often symbolized by the moon. Number 55. Bloodstone is known historically to protect the wearer from demons, as well as be used for divination in natural disasters. Number 56. Bibliomancy is the use of a Bible for divination. This is not a Bible, but it's my beautiful book on witchcraft by the Library of Esoterica, and I love the sound of the spine of this book. Number 57. A common ingredient in filters, enchanted love potions, was mandrake root. Mandrake, however, is poisonous, though these filters were very popular in the Middle Ages. Number 58. Sending is the practice of directing a bird, animal, spirit, or animated object of some kind to do your bidding or enact a curse upon someone else. Number 59. In folklore, the seventh child of a seventh child is purported to possess extraordinary magical ability. Number 60. The word sigil derives from the Latin word sigillum, meaning seal. Number 61. The Wiccan Rede is a creed of paganism and witchcraft, which reads as follows. 8 words the Wiccan Rede fulfill, and it harm none. Do what ye will. 62. Widdershins or withershins refer to a counterclockwise motion that assists in the casting of banishing or binding spells. Number 63. Aleister Crowley defined magic as the science or art of causing change to occur in conformity to the will in his Magic in Theory and Practice in 1929. Number 64. Number 64. Burning times is a common phrase used to describe the peak of the witchcraft trials, particularly in modern history and sects of witchcraft. However, as I mentioned in my previous 100 facts about witchcraft, which will be linked in the description and somewhere in this video, witches were not burned nearly as often in the trials as popular media would have you believe. Number 65. In Scandinavian and German myths, Alruns are sorcerers who are shapeshifters, and in some areas, up until the 19th century, families would keep statues in their homes of them and make offerings to them. The Seder Square is a collection of letters that many people have tried to translate, even though it remains nonsensical. It was inscribed on walls as early as ancient Rome, and some people associate it with witchcraft. Number 67. Between Chipping Norton and Long Compton in the Cotswolds in England, the Rollright stones are a group of prehistoric stones which are associated with a witch. There's lots of different versions of the story. The versions that I've seen and heard usually involve a bunch of knights being transformed into a stone. Number 68. The Newbury Witch was executed in 1763 because Cromwell's soldiers thought they saw her walking on water. Number 69. Sybil Leek was known by many as Britain's most famous witch for her numerous publications on the occult and witchcraft. Let's see if I can open this. There's a nettle in here. No, I can't. It's sealed. Number 70. The witch cult hypothesis is a discredited, largely frowned upon theory popularized by Margaret A. Murray that argues that early modern witch trials were an attempt to suppress pre-Christian pagan religion. Number 71. Though the exact origins of the witch hat are unknown, there's a lot of theories. Some scholars posit that it comes from the Thracian cap, a flexible, soft, cone-shaped hat associated with a Greek and Roman mystery religion that goes by many names, including the cult of Mithras. The cult of Mithras. Number 72. The origins of the name Litha, the Sabbath representing midsummer, are mysterious, but the summer solstice and all of the traditions and rituals that come from it have been an important part, or has been an important part of human life since the Neolithic era. I've got some matches here. I always love the sound of matches in jars. The pentacle, this is fact number 73. The pentacle is an ancient symbol, though some theorize that it came to prominence through use in the Key of Solomon the King, a text that claims it is King Solomon's grimoire, but is actually probably from the Renaissance era. Let's flip our facts over. We're on the last 30 or so. Number 74. Swords, daggers, knives, and other pointed blades were often used and are still used in some people's practice. In spellcraft, particularly by drawing a circle in the air. A circle in the air with a pointed object. Florida water, this is fact number 75. Florida water can be used as part of a vanishing spell. It is a Swedish orange-scented liquid used to cleanse spaces in numerous places, such as Peru, Bolivia, and the Caribbean. Oops. Clumsy. I have a candle right here called Gold Dust Woman. We may as well light it. Number 76. Number 76. Astara, another one of the Wheel of the Year Sabbats, is named after the Germanic goddess of spring, also known as Astara with an A, Iastra, or as many of us know it, or might be more familiar, Easter. Number 77. In the 9th century, King Alfred wrote, "Women who are wont to practice enchantments and magicians and witches, do not allow them to live." Number 78. Dion Fortune, a British occultist, gathered with members of her group, the Society of the Inner Light, every Sunday and cast spells against the destruction and terror of the Second World War. Number 79. Matthew Hopkins, known as the Witch Finder General, and one of the most fanatical witch hunters in the 1600s, was a failed lawyer, actually. A lot of people and had absolutely no qualifications for what he did. Super fascinating. Number 80, Ronald Hutton, a witchcraft scholar, one of my favorites and most admired scholars, explains that those who died in the era of Matthew Hopkins's activity were normally senile, quote, saddled with an unusually bad local reputation, or convinced that they had actually cursed people with success. Okay, let me just place this over here. Maybe I'll blow it out first. I can put the lid on. Nice smoke. Number 81. The Cauldron was Britain's oldest, longest-running magazine on witchcraft and magic, and it was published from 1976 until 2015, and it's so sad that it doesn't exist anymore. Number 82. The word abracadabra was actually used by the Romans as a charm against harmful disease. Number 83. Physicians and surgeons in the early modern period offered the service of unbewitching an afflicted client. And number 84, these practitioners would use the herb vervain, which is also known as the enchanter's herb, to diagnose and cure the patient's bewitchment. Number 85, other quote-unquote cures for witchcraft were, as it states in the Book of English Magic, fumigants of bay, rue, sage, and rosemary, and for internal consumption, concoctions of marigold, rosemary, angelica, and St. John's wort. Number 86. Many cunning folk use Nicholas Culpeper's The English Physician or Herbal, which was published in 1653. And cunning folk, of course, a healer. You might think of her or him as the village witch or a white witch. Number 87. Jane York was one of the last people to be convicted under the Witchcraft Act of 1735 for mediumship and seeing spirits, actually in 1944, though she was only charged £5 for the crime, and there were some stipulations that she promised to never do it again. Number 88. The classical Latin word beneficium means poisoning and causing harm by magic. Number 89. Watkins Books in Cecil Court, off Charing Cross Road, is London's oldest esoteric bookstore, and it's been around since 1897. Number 90. Sympathetic magic is centered around the doctrine that like attracts and produces like, either through imitations or correspondences. Number 91, toad doctors, were practitioners of folk magic who operated primarily in the western part of England until the end of the 19th century, and they were believed to cure ailments resulting from witchcraft. Number 92. The thought that witchcraft was malevolent has been observed in writings from as far back as ancient Mesopotamia. So a really long time. It's pretty fascinating. This is not Florida water, but it's a sweetgrass and sage. And I like spray, and I like the sounds it makes. Number 93, Aradia, or the Gospel of the Witches, is a book by Charles Godfrey Leland, a folklorist, published in 1899, and it is the religious text of a group of witches from Tuscany, Italy. Number 94, The Charge of the Goddess, an inspirational piece of liturgy often used in Wiccan practice, was partially derived from Aradia's speech in Charles Godfrey Leland's. Number 95, Dianic Wicca, also known as Dianic Witchcraft, is a modern pagan tradition that only honors the goddess instead of both male and female deities. Number 96. In Mikhail Bulgakov's The Master and the Margarita, Margarita uses a flying ointment to transform into a witch and fly away. Number 96. Or number 97, sorry. The active ingredient in flying ointments were often extremely poisonous, with belladonna, wolfsbane, and henbane as very common components. And we're down to our final few facts. Number 98. In some parts of Ukraine, cunning folk and healers were known as Znachar, translated to someone who knows. Someone who knows. Number 99. Edward Bever, a historian of witchcraft, writes that witchcraft was particularly likely to be suspected when a disease came on unusually swiftly, lingered unusually long, could not be diagnosed clearly, or presented some unusual symptoms. Number 100. In the 5th century BC, the laws of the 12 tables declared that there would be penalties for people who uttered harmful spells or took the bounty of a person's crops via magic. And the last fact, 101. Some other words for witchcraft. Sorcellerie in French, hexerie in German, brujeria in Spanish, and rozbierstwo in Polish. So those are the 101 facts that I have compiled for you. I hope that you enjoyed listening to these facts. And again, if you really enjoyed this, please consider sticking around, subscribing to the channel. I put out videos like this semi-frequently. I'm writing a book, so I'm a little more busy than I used to be. And consider supporting my work on Patreon, because this is absolutely the reason why this video exists at all, because of my beautiful, wonderful patrons. So I hope that you have a restful and peaceful sleep. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Good night.